And so I'd firstly just like to welcome you all. And I'd also, to begin with, want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we all gather. And I think for most of us that we're on the Wadawurrung people land. And just, I suppose, in a really nice way, you know, we're learning to be leaders, and how wonderful it is to acknowledge the wonderful leadership that we've had from the traditional owners of the lands that we are on today. So, yeah, I also want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal people with us tonight online. And to start with, I'm going to have a go at sharing my screen. And I'm a little bit rusty at this, so I'm hoping that I'm going to share my correct screen. And I really do. I've got Libby and Shannon and Kath, the three people here that I know the best. So please tell me if I am sharing the right screen or not. How's that looking to you? Can you see my desktop or my screen? And I can't hear any of you, sorry.
Connecting you.
You're connecting you slide.
Ah, beautiful. Okay, that's the one that we want. That's awesome. We're on. So I'm just going to go into, okay. So now you've got Bowen Game Changer?
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Liv. All right, so very quickly, just to let you know where all of this leadership, women in sport in leadership sits, that there has been, we're just finishing up a program that's actually been going since 2018 called the Bowen Game Changer. Now, some of your clubs have been involved in this, some it will be new to, and even you as individuals, even if your club has been involved, for instance, Jay, that this might be new to you, but Carmel will have been across it. So there were three elements to the program, and one of them was in developing a women in sport leadership program. And this is the second reiteration of the program. We planned it last year pre-COVID to have it face-to-face. We had to switch it to do it online, which was terrific, and we learned heaps. And so this program is more targeted at the Barwon region, but we also, because we are just Barwon, then we're able to do some face-to-face as well, providing the COVID restrictions continue to be lifted as they are at the moment, which is super exciting. The expectations that we have of the program are that we want more women and girls to take on leadership positions in sport. We want to build your connection to each other and to build your connection with people within your club around leadership. We're doing this because we are aiming to build gender equality, and we'll go into that on the 28th of March in a lot more detail. And we're wanting to build your leadership capacity all round. And a few of you have talked about why you want to do this program, and most of you, there's a common theme that you want to be able to be more influential, and you want to be able to become a better leader within your club and within your local community. So well done for giving up the time. It's very unselfish of you, because one, you're already a volunteer, and then with that you get the set of steak knives in having to do programs like this to add along the way. So that is the program in a very, very quick nutshell, because I'm very conscious of making the most of our time with our guest speakers. But before we go any further, I'm going to stop sharing, and I would love for everyone to introduce themselves, their role, or first of all, their club that they are from, and their role at their club, and maybe a little bit of their experience so far in their leadership that they've undertaken so far. So I'm going to start on my left, my top left, and Kath, it's your lucky day. So can we start with you, please, Kath? Oh, sorry, and you might also
can. So Kathy Fulton. So Sorry. Oh,
Go.
Kathy Fulton. So I'm currently the secretary at the Lara Football Club, which this is my 4th year doing that role. Previous to that, I think I had about 8 years at the netball club, and then did a switch when Fiona's lovely husband asked me to join the committee with him when he took on the president's role. So it was a big change jumping from netball, which was very female orientated on their leadership group, to going across to football, which was very male dominated when we started. But we now have about a 50-50, 50% of each gender on our football committee. So over the last 3 or 4 years, it has changed. Certainly last year, we kept basically all our committee even during COVID. So I've had a couple of different roles. I was treasurer and committee at netball. I've only done the secretary role at the football. I actually don't have any kids that play sport at the club anymore, but I'm Lara born and bred, so I do have a real passion for being involved in my local community and in my local club, and I suppose just trying to focus on the culture of the club. Certainly in the football, that seems to be the biggest challenge when you're dealing with a lot of males instead of females. It was probably the biggest thing I found switching from netball to football, and a lot more numbers because of the participation that Lara has with their football club.
Thanks, Kath. Fantastic. And just before we continue, Donna, welcome. I'm not sure if you can hear me just yet.
I can, yes.
Hi, Donna. We've only just started. I'm Fiona. We haven't met yet, but hello.
Hi.
And we've only just started, and I'll let you go last, but we're just talking about our club, our role, and why we're here.
Sure.
Jay, I've got you next, come off the rank. Are you okay to go next?
No drama.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm Jay Martin. I am essentially the main coach now at Geelong Canoe Club. I am very new to this. I essentially wandered off the streets and into the canoe club in about November, and inserted myself into it, which has been really nice. I found everybody there's actually been super lovely, and I've had zero issues, just a lot of enthusiasm all round and a lot of responsibilities thrown my way, which I'm really keen for, so that's fantastic. If you can't tell by my accent, which I'm trying to lose, but it's not all the way gone, I am English, and I have been involved in canoeing and kayaking in some form for, gosh, since I was 9, maybe. I worked in outdoor ed for a good lot of years. I helped with canoe clubs in the UK, and yeah, after we were allowed out of lockdown, I wandered over to the very lovely canoe club and started helping out over there. And since I started, we've developed a kids program, which I now run every Tuesday, and we've gotten a fair few more people that keep coming to the club because, hey, we're now out of lockdown, and what a fantastic thing to do, be on the water, be outside. I'm hoping to push the club into more expeditions and to broaden the horizons a bit, get us outside of just racing, because not everybody's into racing and not everybody wants to compete, and there's so many other facets. Yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Libby, I've got you next. So everyone, Libby Mears and Shannon Landers are both our special guests tonight, and they're very kindly jumped on early, which is brilliant. Lib, do you want to just briefly introduce you and maybe even your sporting involvement as well before we get into your presentation?
Hi everybody, my name is Libby Mears and I'm actually in Gulligen country. So I'm sitting on a farm up at the back of Lorne in a place called Pennyroyal, which we moved to about a year ago. And I live here with my husband and 2 adult children who refuse to leave home. And so thank you, Fee, for inviting me. I kind of think I need to talk to Jay, because I think, oh God, the canoe club sounds amazing. I think I've got some ideas about that, even for Leisure Networks, actually. So thank you, Jay, for sharing your story. And my sporting involvement, yeah, I played tennis as a kid and swam and was part of clubs, so very much. And then my husband and I started the first ever little junior footy club down at Aireys Inlet, the Aireys Inlet Eels, because we had no club and really only had a very small community. So it was fun, but it was challenging actually doing that. And I've always been involved in my kids' sports, so team managing in surf life saving, and yeah, dealing with probably the under 10 parents has got to be the most challenging thing ever, because no matter what sport, everyone thinks at under 10 you're going to make the big time, whether it's the AFL, whether it's Netball Australia, or whether it's Swimming Australia, whatever. So I think it's always interesting when people work in clubs, volunteers, because actually it's pretty challenging dealing with the complexity of people that you have to deal with. So I look forward to hearing more of your stories.
Thanks, Liv. Fantastic. And you are a long way away. These Zooms are handy for some people, aren't they?
Very handy too.
Yeah. Shasta, I've got you next on my screen. Are you okay to go next?
Sure. So Shasta O'Loughlin, I'm currently the women's representative at 13th Beach Board Riders, and I also work at Rip Curl in Torquay. So I've been there for 15 years, so I've been surrounded by the surf industry for some time. And before that, I was very much involved in the snow in the mountains following the winter. So it's sort of in my blood, but moved to surfing and probably more obsessed in surfing in the last probably 4 years, just after having my third son, got back into it. And basically, yeah, my kids were wanting to surf, and so we joined the Board Riders Club, and we're at the comps and basically standing there going, I want to be involved in a club where I can go surfing. That real competitive, going for state champions and things like that. So I just sort of felt there was a bit of a hole, and worked with a couple of guys off the committee to see if we could trial putting in it sort of started as the mums of the kids. We had a heat in our Groms competition, and there was about 6 of us, and now it's taken off, and we've rolled out a full women's event, and we had a competition on Saturday, and we had 24 surfing women involved. So it's really sort of, I think it's a little bit different to the standard surfing sort of perception of what clubs are. So there's definitely been challenges faced with that, just trying to steer it in a way to make it more of a social I guess events, rather than just looking at that competitive side, and just realizing that women want things done a little bit differently. So just trying to drive that. So yeah.
Thanks, Shasta. It's amazing. You're doing some incredible work. I think you were on the advisory, weren't you? Were you on the Surfing Vic?
With Surfing Vic, yeah. It's sort of all tied in. It sort of all happened at exactly the same time, where Surfing Vic to sort of share my ideas, and then they asked that group, there was, because it was a lot of Board Rider Club members, there was very strong ideas about the traditional way that Board Rider clubs are ran. So it was really quite interesting to put forward my vision, and hear the sort of negative and the positive feedback from that as well. So a really great strategy is being rolled out through Surfing Victoria as well. So it's exciting times for women in surfing.
I think Livy was on the board of Surfing Vic at the time of getting all of that started. So yeah, that'll be great for some follow-up conversation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shasta. Awesome. Kiri, I've got you next. You're out in space.
Yeah. You don't want to see my bedroom.
Welcome. No, I'm the same with my study. Yeah, no one needs to see it.
Yeah, so I'm Kiri O'Connor. I've just taken up the role as sponsorships coordinator on the 13th Beach Board Riders Club committee, so with Shasta. Before that, I've just been like a general member of the committee for the last 6 months, and it's been my first time sitting on the committee and on any committee, so it's been an interesting experience. And I actually surfed in the club when I was about 13 till I was about 19, and then moved away for 10 or so years, and have just moved back to Ocean Grove in the last 6 months. So yeah, I wanted to get involved again. And yeah, this has been a good way to make that happen, rather than just standing around on the beach twiddling my thumbs and surfing the events. Yeah, working with Shasta and the other people on the committee has been a good way to see how else I can help out.
Fantastic. That is great. Well done for coming along tonight, being a part of it all. Awesome. Shannon, I've got you up next.
I reckon it's going to be easier for me to do my background as part of my presentation.
Sure. All right. Keep them with all the suspense.
Keep you on your toes.
Okay. All right, Shannon. We'll flick over to you, Summer. I've got you next.
So yeah, I'm Summer John. I'm from the Barnheads Cricket Club. I've been there since I was like maybe 8, I think. And I've kind of been like the only girl there for like ever. So I worked with a few people to try and get like a girls team together, I guess, and was successful in doing so. So we got a team together and just kind of was in amongst the boys, just trying to have a go, I guess. And I play also with the under 15 boys, which I'm the only girl in that. So I'm just trying to, like, I obviously don't have a role at the club because I'm only 15. So I'm just like, trying to encourage more girls to come and play with us, and just trying to be a leader to, encourage more girls to come and play.
Yeah, brilliant, Summer. And do you want to tell everyone what you're doing on the weekend?
Playing in our boys grand final against Queenscliff,
Oh, good luck. That is fantastic. And, we'll talk about what leadership is, Summer, and it's not always that you've got a role or an official role. So, we'll talk about how you can be a leader in exactly the work that you're doing at the moment, both at school and in your community. Donna, and sorry, just welcome Lauren and welcome Trudy. Trudy, you got there eventually?
Yes, I'm on my phone now.
Awesome.
Can you see me? I don't even know if I'm...
We've got 2 of you. We've got a Trudy and a Trudy Ryder. I gather you're the same person.
Me, yes.
Yeah. And Lauren, welcome. Thanks for coming. So just to Trudy and Lauren, we're just going around talking about who we are, what we do in regards to sport and leadership in our communities.
Right.
Donna, I've got you next.
Sorry, let me just get myself off mute. I'm Donna. I am part of the Grovedale Tennis Club, but I'm also the president of Tennis Geelong. So we sort of liaise with about 40 clubs from, well, not at the moment, but as far as Little River down to Lorne, out to Drysdale and Clifton Springs, Point Lonsdale. So we take up pretty much the whole of Geelong. I've been president now for 3 or 4 years. I can't quite remember how long. And we've been looking at trying to develop a strategic plan recently to try and improve participation, particularly with women. We've seen quite a big drop off in the last 10 to 15 years, and trying to work out how we arrest that and get as many girls coming through from juniors into seniors as well. So so that's what I do, and I have a bit to do with my local club as well. I'm the vice president there at the moment. I'm a life member, so I've been around for a little while. But tennis is my thing, and that's me.
Oh, welcome. Thank you very much for coming along. You'll have heaps to share with us. Trudy, I've got you up next.
Right, so I'm part of the committee for the Leopold Lakers Basketball Club. Just one of the mums. It's a small club, small committee. We've only got about 12 teams. Only one team is girls, the rest are all boys. And just trying to create a bit of energy in the club and hopefully get some more girls playing. We've got a few challenges being small club, but yeah, that's pretty much me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks heaps for coming along. And I won't talk about it now, but, you know, in the subsequent sessions, we'll talk about what we can do to brainstorm and think about how we can build the capacity of our clubs in us developing our leadership skills as well. So we'll have all the answers by the 28th of March for you, Trudy. Lauren, are you still
Fantastic.
there? Yep, cool. You're
Hello.
last but not least.
I was just eating. I didn't want to put my video
Oh,
on.
no, that's okay.
All right. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I'm here with Shasta representing the 13th Beach Board Riders. So taking up surfing late in life and wanting to get involved, obviously, and having, you know, Shasta on board, getting grants and helping out. It's been amazing. But my background is in elite sport. So I'm a physiotherapist and strength and conditioning coach. So started a long time ago with Melbourne Victory in the soccer, and then with the Matildas with the Australian national team. And currently I'm working with Geelong Cats in their AFL women's team. So I've seen a whole spectrum from club level to elite level, how it's changed over the years in that sporting setting, but also, although we've made inroads, there's obviously a lot left still to closing the gap between women's sport as well. So I hope that I can help, you know, be a leader, whether it's at club level or within the elite environment as well.
Fantastic. Awesome. What a great group of women we've got together. Awesome. Fantastic. All right. With no further ado, Lib, I might flick over to you if that's okay. We're running a tiny bit behind schedule, but it's okay because I've left a lot of discussion time at the end. So I would rather let everyone hear from you and Shannon before we go into our chat again. So thank you.
Thank you, Fee. And thanks to Ranji. What so interesting, just so interesting, all your backgrounds. So you're going to really learn and share, you know, with generosity, I think, you know, your own perspectives. And I think that's one of the most important things in leadership is actually generosity in a way, because it isn't only about you, it's the impact that you leave. Now, Fiona just wrote one thing for me. She said, oh, can you talk about leadership? Just for 15 minutes, just talk about it. I'm going, yeah, well, I can, but what am I going to talk about, really? And so I guess I've been listening to you, thinking about, you know, what I might share with you. And I think all of you currently are chosen to step into a space where you're going to have an impact, all of you. And so congratulations for being leaders. And I think being here tonight is also a really clear indication of what a leader does, which is continue to learn and be curious. And that sense of learning comes from experience and hearing from others and listening and thinking, well, how might I replicate or copy or just, you know, take from all of the people who come into your lives. And I think probably that's been my journey very much so. And so recently I had an opportunity to do a podcast, and it was with it was a really good it was a great podcast with a woman called Michelle Redfern, and Fee might talk a bit about Michelle Redfern actually. Yeah, she's a really interesting woman. And she just reached out and said, oh, I'd love to talk to you, Libby, because you've been doing two things I'm really passionate about, you know, sort of working in the sports space and working in politics. And so the conversation was fantastic. And at the end of it, it was just really interesting because we just talked about those topics. But what it made me feel at the end of it was I really needed to just share publicly, in fact, that Michelle had taken the time to have a chat, and then just named on LinkedIn the people who have really influenced me, who have just given me the nudge that I needed to step into a space. And that's kind of all the way through my journey. I think it has been others who have offered something, a conversation over coffee about, help clarify views, or a real opportunity to take a new role. And I guess for me, every time that's happened, you get a little bit like, oh God, can I do that really? That whole thing of, oh, it just feels too big, I've got too much on. There's always something, isn't there, about why the opportunity that comes in front of you might be a bit hard. But in reflecting back, I just thought, oh, there's a lot of people who have given me the journey that's unfolded for me. Hasn't been that I've planned to move through life, but it has been sort of a series of wonderful events that have come from people who have been generous. And I think for me, that's helped inform what I've got a really strong interest in, is supporting particularly women to also have those experiences, but to not second guess themselves, to step into the space, to allow yourself to say, this is who I am. And so the journey, for me as a leader really kind of began, or public leader really. I was kindergarten president. You've probably all been there or experienced something like, a little group of people where you're doing something really maybe on behalf of your kids or a family member or whatever, but kindergarten president, and the opportunity to run for local council was put in front of me. Like, that's so not what I thought about I'd be doing when I said, oh yeah, I'll be kinder president for a year. And that kind of journey meant someone had suggested it to me, they supported me, and they've kind of been there my whole life. That's 16 years ago now. But that one decision has unfolded and led to a lot of other opportunities that I've kept sort of putting the hand up for. One of the things I realised is that the very important thing that you need to know really clearly is yourself and your values, and how at the time of challenge, because leadership is sometimes making hard choices on behalf of a greater good, maybe, is, well, how do you make those decisions? And I think I learned early on, particularly in local politics, that you have to be very clear of who you are as a person. What is it? And so when I think about how I approach challenging decisions or decisions that need to be made, it's always about you do the right thing and then you manage the politics. So you don't do the popular thing. The right thing might be the popular thing, but often it's actually not the popular thing. But it's about the right thing, and the right thing is about, where's your values? Where are they? How do you know that it's the right thing for you? What are the values that you're clear on and you lead from? And I think when you're very clear about who you are and the values that drive you and motivate you, quite clear then the sort of, I guess, leadership model you're going to follow. It's a values-led approach. And it comes from something bigger than just position. Look for leadership, look for authenticity as well. And the values that you have and who you are, that is your authentic self. And recently my husband said to me, he didn't sing me a song, but he told me a few lyrics of a song that are really, really powerful and actually spoke to me when I first applied for my job at Leisure Networks. And Shannon was on the board back then in 2013. And I, at the time, didn't know whether I would be able to do the job. I'd never been a CEO before. I didn't, I just thought it's an organisation I've always wanted to work with. So I put my hat in the ring And I thought, you know, how will I present myself at the interview? And I just thought, right, I'm going to just go for it and give them Libby Mears on steroids. This is what I really believe in, because I was quite passionate about leisure networks. I'd worked with the organisation and I knew what the potential was. And I think what I did was really just for the very first time, not pretend to be a particular style or pretend to try and meet what I might have thought the board were looking for. I just decided to be really me. And I'm a bit loud at times. I get a bit excited at times. I talk a lot. I did a little bit of that at the interview, but it was obviously a success because the board chair was and the words that my husband said to me recently made me think back to that time, and I've got them here because I thought, oh, they're really nice, and they're really nice about just connecting to being your authentic self. And it's a song by Neil Young called There's a World, and the first two lines are, there's a world you're living in and no one else has your part. So it's kind of just own who you are as a leader, own what it is that you're passionate about and what you want to achieve, and just go for it. And I think for me, that's been something that you get challenged all the time in all the different roles. But if you can always go back to who you are and what your sense values are and who you want to be in this world, I think there is a very strong sense that people really do connect with that honesty. And honesty, and I'm just pushing my someone's ringing me, so I'm just turning that off. The honesty and the authenticity, and I think that's what we're looking for nowadays, particularly nowadays. We want real people that we can connect with. So Fee, I want to wrap it up because I don't want Shannon's got a much more interesting session than mine. But is there anything you wanted me to address specifically?
No, that's why I kept it very broad. And every time you speak, you always take a different tact on things. So I just thought, just leadership, and it's what you live every day. So it's easy, sort of. Well, I say it's easy for you to talk about that, but there's lots of examples and lots of experience. So thank you so much for sharing that, and that was really generous of you to. And I've written the words of the song down, so we might have to come back to that during the program as well. Lee, were you hanging around, or are you doing a ghosty, or are you hanging around? Yep. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you very much. Now, Shannon, we've got a board member of Leisure Networks with us, a board member of Geelong Racing Club. Still, yes, if I'm correct, Shannon. And Shannon is also the head of legal for Cotton On. So she has a really easy job. She just flows in and out of work every day, so I'm really grateful to Shannon, because these sorts of things are on top of a full-on job, a very demanding workload. I think it's wonderful that you're able to come and share your knowledge with us. And Shannon's got a really interesting story, so I'm hoping that you enjoy, Shannon. And at the end of this, we will have some discussions, so make sure that you do take it all in, because we will ask for your feedback at the end of it as well.
I hope it's interesting.
It is. It's fantastic. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, V, and thanks, Liv. Firstly, just a really, really, really impressive bunch of women you all are. And I obviously have slides, but I'm also a bit of an off-the-cuff person. And I can't tell you how many notes I wrote in the first half an hour, just everyone speaking, but with a little bit of who I am and what I do, because both of those things are really important as part of your personal branding. And then personal branding and leadership I'm going to cover together, and then hopefully cover off a little bit of conflict resolution along the way, or some tips and tricks, because I think they kind of all feed in together in the roles that you guys do. But as you were all introducing yourself, I managed to write down a connection to each of you in one way or another that I have through my experience. So I'm just going to go through that, because I think that's going to be a more engaging way for you to hear about my journey, because you'll be able to connect to it. So as Fee said, I'm the head of legal for the Cotton On Group, which is a global fashion retailer. and we trade in 20 countries, and I head up legal globally for that business. I'm also 34 years old, so I'm quite young to have a role like that. But when I explain to you my journey, it'll help you understand a little bit more how you end up positioning yourself for things like that. But basically, so I'm born and bred Geelong. Jay, I did do part of my degree in England. I went to Keele University in Staffordshire for a semester. And none of you were dancers, but I grew up dancing. And then I'm just going to give you the sport connection and then the leadership kind of tie-in. And then at high school, I copped rowing. So Jay, that's my little connection to the canoeing and rowing. And then after high school, I played netball. Now, Kathy, my dad's a life member of Newtown, but I married a North Shore football player. So I'm a bit controversial in my family, but and I work with a lot of people from St Mary's. So there's always a lot of local football. And I actually also, I was a secretary of the netball club at North Shore as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that because it gives a really good reflection for me around branding as to the type of leader I was at that time versus the type of leader that I am now. And it has a lot to do with personal branding. Shasta, I sit on a board with your CEO, Michael Daly. So we sit where I'm on the Geelong Racing Club, so horse racing board. And so I have a lot to do with Michael Daly. And for Shasta and Kiri and Lauren, I picked up surfing as an older person for surfing as well. So, and then have that connection to Surfing Victoria. One of my friends is the chair. Then Summer, I don't have too much of a connection to cricket, although my grandmother was Donald Bradman's personal assistant, so I can have that connection. But one of the things that Libby said that really resonated for me with you is around leadership isn't so much about the position that you hold, but it's about your actions or how you show up. And pretty much personal branding is a lot about how you show up, and that is your leadership style. Donna, I don't have much to say about tennis other than when we get to some examples of good and bad personal brands, there's quite a few tennis players in there. So on both sides of the story. Trudy, my netball experience is the closest thing I really have to basketball. I don't have a lot to connect to basketball. So I've basically had some level of sporting involvement most of my life. And that's also been a lot about my leadership and a lot about my journey in personal branding. Fee, is this going to be better in a PDF or a PowerPoint?
Probably PowerPoint might be a bit clearer. But if you want to put the PDF up and we'll see what it looks like.
I can't remember what I did last time. I'm not good at this stuff, guys.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
And when I share my screen, you're just going to see a big photo of me and my dog, so that will give you a bit about me.
Okay. Well, that will be lovely.
I think that's going to be.
Yep, something's happening. Yes.
So you can see that personal.
So
branding.
we've got the 4 girls personal branding.
Okay. Yeah. So that's not my personal branding. That's obviously Cotton On personal branding, and that's their copyright, not mine. But easy for me to use their slides. So yeah, I'm just going to finish off the who am I piece and then go into like what is personal branding in my view, and then good and bad examples, and then give you some tips. So as I said, head of legal, I'm also on the board of Leisure Networks. So I've been on the board of Leisure Networks for 10 years. I started on that board when I was 25. And so when I get to a little bit about cut through and influence, I'll probably talk about my journey of trying to make an impact as a 25-year-old versus a 35-year-old, and how you can go to, it's not so much about age, it's often about experience, and it's often about life experience. So I'll get to that with my tips. But there's a whole lot of different things that make up who I am. And it's not just what I do. So just because I'm a lawyer or just because I work in fashion doesn't mean that strongly resonates with my personal brand. One of the reasons I don't work in a law firm is because I don't particularly like lawyers that much. So my personal brand is not really identifying as a lawyer. It's more to do with someone who likes to solve problems. I would like to say I'm a problem solver. That's more of my personal brand, which is why law is a good career for me. And not working in a law firm, working in a business where I'm solving all different problems all day. And that's probably part of the reason that I'm always drawn to leadership positions, volunteer positions, because I like to solve problems and get solutions. So what I did was, when I was quite junior, as I said, I started playing netball after high school while I was working in a law firm. I started in a top tier law firm, which is a very dominated male industry. It's still very heavily males at the top of law firms. And I worked in a transactional team where there was 2 partners in that team. They were both men. Actually, I was the only female in the whole team. And one partner would get in at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you would leave at like 6 o'clock at night. And then the other partner would get in more like 10 o'clock in the morning, but he would leave at like midnight. So pretty much they always had someone working around the clock, which gave me a very early indication of why there wasn't any females, because it was almost impossible to have a family when you worked those kind of hours and like that. So then I moved into a different size firm where I got a little bit more of a lifestyle. I wasn't just working all the time. And that's when I started to look at, so when I was on the North Shore committee, I've had this story before to Libby and Fee, but I reflect on my leadership style when I was on the North Shore netball committee. And I think the easiest way to explain it was that I was probably a know-it-all. Because I had studied law, I just thought that I knew everything about governance. And I definitely didn't, because while I had studied the theory behind a lot of this stuff, I didn't get any of it in practice. And so it was probably quite bit patronizing for me to be telling people who had been on committees and boards for longer than I was old, you know, how to have proper governance and proper structure. And I would never do that now, but I, you know, through my journey of being in different leadership positions, both in work and outside of work, you go through personal development, and you go through self-awareness and self-reflection, and you look back and yeah, so my personal branding back in the day when I was early 20s was probably came from a bit of a level of insecurity where I thought I had to know everything, and I thought that I had to have all the answers in order to have the influence. And what I've learned over the last 10 years is that, and I'll come back to this, vulnerability is a really important part of leadership, and it's one of those leadership attributes that females have that they really bring to committees and boards that men don't naturally have. Some men do, and some men can work on it, but one of the really strong leadership attributes that women have is vulnerability. And so the other thing that vulnerability does for your personal brand is if you don't know the answer to something and you put your hand up and you say, yep, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll look into it and I'll come back to you. You've got really good communication, and then you're going to have really good influence, because it means that when you do get to the answer and you do bring it back to the committee, or you do bring it back to the parent or the person that asked the committee, they're going to trust your answer and know that it's right. That's what I do now. But back when I was 20, I probably guessed. And if I got it wrong, then it was a little bit like the girl who cried wolf. And then people stopped asking me or stopped believing in my views or my opinions or what I thought about the governance or whatever of the sporting club, because I lost my influence because people didn't believe me anymore because I was trying to guess the answers. So I think, yeah, I definitely underestimated what people can bring to leadership positions that might not have a piece of paper that tell them they know about governance. So it was with North Shore, and then when I was a junior lawyer, I decided I really needed to work on that practical governance, not just so I could help my sporting club, but so that I could be better in my job as well. So I started looking around for volunteer governance positions, and I ended up taking a role on the Special Olympics Committee. And the reason that I did that was because I have a strong interest in sport, but also in disability. So it was a perfect combination of sport and disability. So I joined the Special Olympics Committee and learned a lot about dealing with parents, dealing with whole type of people who want to tell you what to do and how to run things. And what I did learn then was that it's really important to get a breadth of experience. But if you're going to volunteer your time for free, you need to do something that you enjoy and that you enjoy a lot, because you do give a lot of time to it. So while you build the skills, you want to enjoy it and have a passion for it too. You don't want to resent it. So you do have to find that balance in a volunteer position. And that really led me to then be tapped on the shoulder for leisure networks. So a little bit the same as what Libby was saying. One of the things that you can do in your life is be open to opportunities. So you have to protect your boundaries and not say yes to everything. But when opportunities come your way, you should really be open to them, because, as I said, I've been on the board of Leisure Networks for 10 years now, and that has significantly helped shape my journey, both professionally and personally. So it gives me a lot of joy and passion in a personal sense, but it's really built my leadership and governance expertise as well. So that's like a bit about my journey in terms of some personal branding reflections and some leadership. But I wanted to go on to just personal branding generally. And some of you will know what that means, but some of the more younger guys, you might think, what the heck's personal branding? I suppose I didn't really even know what it was until I've been at Cotton On for 7 years. I reckon it took me a couple of years of working at Cotton On to really understand what a personal brand was. And then it's taken me even longer to get a personal brand that I'm really comfortable with and that I'm really happy with, and that people know me for. So your personal brand is really what I've said to Fee the first time she asked me about this was, what do you want to be famous for? Or if you die, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? Or if you're at a party and someone points, who's that girl? Tell me about her. What are the words and the things that you want people to say about you? Like, what do you want to be known for? So Shasta, I hope if you go to MD at Rip Curl and ask him about me, he's going to say that I'm switched on and I'm fun, but I'm direct, like a bit noble. So I feel like that's what he would probably say about me. So Shannon Landers Proprietary Limited is what I've put up there. So if you think about you're a company. There's two things. There's what you sell, so that's your marketing. What are you trying to sell? And then your personal branding is what people actually buy from you. Like, what do people actually get from you when they go to you, or what are they going to you for? And so personal brand is how you promote yourself. It's a unique combination of skills, experience, and personality that you want the world to see. It tells your story, reflects your conduct, behavior, spoken and unspoken words, and attitude. So Libby was saying earlier that it's a lot about values. That's like a values-based leadership, but your values also feed into your personal brand. Your personal brand's a little bit more about, about the traits you want to be famous for. So for me, as I said, growing up, my only real understanding of leadership was from men. There was pretty much only male leaders in my life growing up. So my leadership style tended to be bossy and dominant. Don't know if it was patronizing, but I probably, I definitely would have cut people off. I wouldn't have been much of a listener, and I definitely wouldn't have been vulnerable. I definitely wouldn't have said that I didn't know the answer to something. And it's quite funny because now I think one of the signs of a really good leader is saying when you don't know the answer to something, because you build trust. And when you build trust with people and you build your relationships with them, that's when you get the influence at that leadership level, because people go to you as a trusted advisor. And Shannon Landers Proprietary Limited, whether that's at Cotton On in my job, or whether that's on the board of Leisure Networks, or whether that's in my personal life with my friends, I want to be seen as a trusted advisor and a problem solver. So I want people to come to me and know that I'm going to be calm and measured, and I'm going to help solve their problem, and they're going to trust my outcome. That's what my personal brand is. And I would hope that if you ask anyone what Shannon like to work with, or what Shannon like as a leader, or what Shannon like as a boss, I expect my team and my business would say that I'm calm. At Leisure Networks, I get the feedback that I've got cut through, or I'm direct, and I do like to think that I'm articulate and that I can frame things up really clearly. So yeah, I want to be known as a trusted advisor, and that's what I've worked really hard to do. The other thing that's really important to note about a personal brand is part of it is your natural traits, and then part of it is things you want to identify with, or what you want to be known for that you might have to work towards. So the key example for me is that people always knew that I was switched on, or that I could help solve a problem, but I wasn't always calm. I was often quite emotional, and that's one way in a male-dominated industry where you're not going to get cut through, is if you're emotional. So you can have emotion and you can have empathy, because as a female, they are two really strong, important things that you should have. But you shouldn't lead or make a decision emotionally. It should be based on fact, and it should be calm, because that's where people buy in, and that's where you get the cut through and the influence, and then you're a really good leader. So a couple of years ago, I got promoted, and a lot of people wanted to give me feedback about my leadership style, whether I asked or not. And a lot of people said a whole lot of different things, and it was really overwhelming. And two people said two really good things to me. And they're two of the best leaders that I know. So they're the people that I listened to the most. One person said, "You're about 80% there, so you just need to tweak it about 20% to get everyone else on board." And I was like, okay, that's good. So, because authenticity, as Ruby said, is really important, and it's really important to me, and it's really important to your personal brand. You have to be authentic, or people won't buy into what you're trying to sell. You have to be genuine. That's part of your brand. And I was like, well, what do I do with the other 20%? Like, how do I get everyone on board? And another leader said to me, there's a person in the business that's really emotional, and I don't want you to be that person. And then there's this other person in the business that's way too calm, and it doesn't look like they're ever serious. You need to be somewhere in the middle, but I like, when there's a really stressful scenario, I want you to walk in and be the person of calm. Like, everyone in the room looks to you as like the calm problem solver. So luckily for me, COVID happened, and the whole world looked to me to figure out all the employment laws. And so all I did above all else was just focus on being calm. I just focused on one thing, just one piece of feedback, and the one thing I wanted to be famous for, and the one thing I wanted to be known for, and that was to be calm. And now people use other words to describe that, like measured or articulate, or like there's other words that I resonate with. But because I focused on being calm, everything fell into place. I'm not telling you that that's what you guys have to focus on, but you've got to think about what you want to be famous for. And then when you're trying to cut through as a leader, that's the trait you need to consistently show. You need to consistently show that one thing you want to be famous for, because that will then build your influence and then build your leadership. The other thing that's really important with personal branding is the consistency. So if you're on brand most of the time, then you've got a good personal brand. And that feeds back to authenticity, because if you try and pick a trait that's not naturally you, it's really draining to try and be on brand 100% of the time. So try and pick something you want to be famous for, but that's probably only a bit of a tweak or a focus to your natural default personality. And you just want to hone in and sharpen that, because you want to be able to do it, if not 100%, like 99% of the time. Because another really important part of cut through and influence and leadership is consistency. People want to know what they're getting when they come to you. They want to know what they're going to you for and what they're going to get when they come to you. So people want to come to me for a solution, and they want me to be calm when I give it to them. That's my personal brand. So just because you don't know who the hell I am, I thought maybe some famous people would help prove what I'm talking about with personal branding. And we definitely, I've tweaked it since last time because it was all men last time, more on the bad branding than the good branding. But so Joel Selwood, whether you like Geelong, hate Geelong, like Joel, hate Joel, there would be consistent and regular words that would describe that guy, no matter who you ask. And they would be brave, courageous, loyal. And he's on brand 99% of the time. Sometimes he gets white line fever, like there's probably a couple of times he's pushed someone and been suspended. But that doesn't really get brought up when you talk about him and his character and his leadership, because he's so consistently on brand all of the time that people talk about those branding traits, like the loyalty and the courageous behaviour. So he has an excellent personal brand, and he's also just a ripping good bloke. So you know that it's like naturally how he is, like he's being authentic and true to himself. That's the same with Ash Barty. You would describe her as like an Aussie battler, like she's consistent, she's authentic, she's fun, like you just kind of always know what you're going to get. Even when she lost in the Australian Open, she was still like held herself really high and was still really calm and consistent in her press conferences. So she has great personal branding. I mean, Michael Jordan is a brand, so that's a whole other story. Serena Williams I love because she doesn't want to be the best female athlete. She's like, no, I'm the best athlete. So she's one of my favorites because she is a bloody good athlete. But then a couple of times she's kind of not gone off brand, but when she's really passionate about something, she might not follow her normal consistent measured traits, like around women's issues or things like that. She gets a bit emotional. Although she can kind of afford to do that because she's built such a good personal brand that then if she goes off brand, people still buy in, or she can still influence. You really got to build that brand and that consistency before you can go off brand. I mean, Oprah and Jacinta Ardern, they're just like the same all the time, like really consistent. Jacinta, you know, she's that perfect example of where you can have empathy and be a good leader. Just because you're empathetic doesn't mean that you're weak. And so as a female, that's one of the strengths that you can bring to leadership. And then the other guys really speak for themselves. I don't have to talk about all of them. Then some examples of poor branding, just so you can really see the distinction. And I know you guys are on mute, but I hope you laugh when you see some of them. So it was all sports people, but it was all men. So to get some women in there, I had to go a bit off sport because I couldn't really find any female sports people with really bad personal branding. But one of the lessons to learn is, you know, you can build up this really great personal brand, and you know, you can go away from it or off it at times. But if you did something that was in such stark contrast to the brand that you've built and the values that you hold and the way that you hold yourself, it can damage a lot of that goodwill that you've built up in yourself. So there's a couple of examples there, like Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer to ever play, but then so much off-field adultery that like he kind of lost his shine a little bit there. That's one of the other things that I think I found really hard as a junior lawyer, was that, you know, personal and professional like overlay. I was very much like, I'm Shannon the lawyer at work, and then I know there's a 15-year-old person on this video, so I'll keep it over 18. But I was like, not Shannon the lawyer on the weekend, like, and it was actually a coping mechanism of how to deal with the challenge of my job. But as I've gotten older, and not that I'm by any means old, I've just gotten better at measuring that that consistency and authenticity in both sides of my life, which I think is really important when you volunteer, because when you volunteer at a sporting club, you really cross collaborating that personal and professional, because the sporting club is part of your personal life. Like you might have played netball or surfed or whatever it was to get into the club, but then you take a position of seniority or a position of governance, and then you look to as a leader. So you kind of can't be on the board or the committee of the sporting club and then be getting functions all the time. Like you've got to you got to be fun, but you got to remember the leadership and find the balance. And then there's obviously just like other people there that just have terrible personal branding. I'm not sure that I have to go into it. I think it's pretty clear by looking at them. But you can be equally known for having a poor brand as you can for having a good brand. But you can change your brand. So Mel Gibson used to have a great personal brand, like a wholesome Australian guy, and then he just went on like racist and misogynistic rants. So, and then other people have flipped it around the other way. I didn't put any examples there of where people have had poor branding and then changed it. But everyone can do personal and professional development and work on their emotional intelligence and their self-awareness and self-reflection and develop. So yeah, really, what do I want to be famous for? I don't know if that's going to feed into like any activities that you guys do, but if you're going to kind of workshop for yourself or sit down or scribble out what do you want to be famous for, I'd keep it to just a few words, like probably less than 5, but don't overwhelm yourself. And in terms of a focus area or something you want to practice, I'd just pick the one. So I wanted a lot of things. And as I said, I focused on calm, and then the others kind of came, or I got more buy-in from people on all of the other things when I proved the calmness. And it depends on the environment that you're in. And so my tips would be, as I said before, consistency. So consistency is key. Like if you really want people to buy into you as a leader, you know, you really need to have that measured. They need to know what they're going to get. Authenticity, as Libby said, you've got to be yourself. But like I said, you can always work on something or tweak something or hone in on something. The other really important part to feed through all of this is relationships. So when it comes to leadership and influence, relationships is really important. It's really hard to influence someone that you don't have a relationship with. It's also really hard to have a controversial opinion at a board level or a committee level if you haven't got the relationships where you can speak freely and openly with your committee members. So my first tip would be consistent and authentic, but really build on those relationships before you know, because people want to know that you're a good person or you have good values before they start getting into the nitty-gritty with you. And that also feeds into one of my biggest tips around conflict resolution. So if you build really good relationships around your club, it's going to be far easier to diffuse conflicts or friction scenarios because you're going to be able to go to people and talk it through. It's really hard to resolve a conflict with someone that you don't have a relationship with. So relationships are key in sporting clubs and just in leadership and life and work as well. And then the last thing is, which ties into all the other ones, is communication. So communication is important for leadership, but when we're talking about sporting clubs, there is often conflict resolution that you need to focus on. As a leader, people will come to you to resolve conflicts. Unfortunately, that's just part and parcel. You might not be like a person that likes conflict, no one really does, but in order to properly manage conflict, you need to be a really good communicator. And like I said, if you've got the relationship, the communication is far easier. The other thing that's really good for your personal branding with communication is people like to know that you have follow through or that they can rely on you. So I always find it's really clear if there's a committee meeting or a conflict or someone comes to you for an opinion or to let you know something, that you communicate, like you close off and you communicate at the end of the meeting or the catch up or whatever it is, what the actions are. So what the actions are and who has ownership for them. So I'm going to do this, or you're going to do this, or we agreed that this is going to happen. And then when's it going to happen by? So I'm going to call that person by next Friday, and then I'll get back to you. If you have conflicts or meetings or anything like that where you don't communicate the action items and who's responsible, that's where a lot of the conflict actually arises. And you can often prevent a lot of conflict through being a really good communicator. So for a lot of you guys in your role, your personal branding might be to work on good communication or clear communication. That's a bit of a default one for me, but I think it's a really good one to work on, an easy one to work on, and a great one to be known for in a sporting club. And like I said, will give you great personal brand, great cut through and leadership, and help you resolve conflict. So that's kind of a bit about personal branding, conflict, and leadership from me, from my experience.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shannon. That's wonderful. Does anyone have any questions for Shannon? Shannon, I'm just wondering, I was just going to put everyone into just a couple of breakout rooms and give them a couple of things to think about. Are you able to stick around, and you as well, Lib, if it's okay, to jump into those breakout rooms? People seem to be, from our experience, more likely to ask a question or comment when they're in a smaller group.
Sure, Fee. No
Yeah.
worries.
Okay. So everyone, if that's all right with you, just give me 2 seconds and I'll throw you into a breakout room. The 2 things that I had listed was that just to get your feedback on if you've ever thought about your personal brand, and then during Shannon's presentation, have you had some thinking about what it is that you want to develop? Might be sort of getting identifying a strength that you want to build on, or looking at something that you think, gee, I really need to work on that aspect of my personal brand. So if you just want to have a look, so basically something that you're good at, something you might want to get better at, and if you want to just discuss that in the groups, and I will quickly assign some groups. And Summer, have I got you there? And Trudy?
Got it now. Yep.
Now, potentially, Summer, I might have you on your own because we've got 2 Trudys.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is go back and I'm going to put you into another room. So
hang on.
Oh, no, we've got Trudy. Cool. Okay, I didn't know whether I had Rich Trudy.
I've been having technical issues. Sorry.
That's all right. That we'll be able to take all of that away at the next session when we're face to face. So yeah, that's okay. We know that we're always going to get. I had really bad reception before, so it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just So have you ever thought about, either of you thought about sort of your personal brand in that way?
No.
No, not really.
No.
Did any of it resonate with you?
Sorry. I guess it did. I mean, like, I understand that people will warm to someone who's consistent and someone they understand, they know what they're going to get. So yes, I guess it kind of does resonate.
Summer, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of have thought about my personal brand a little bit. Just like being, I guess, more open-minded in like leadership, I guess. Yeah.
It's actually really, I've, sort of been in leadership roles for a long, long time. And it wasn't until I started sort of doing this work thinking, yeah, what do I want to be remembered for, or what is it that's really important to me can come, because I think sometimes when you're in a leadership position too, you can become a bit of a starfish and everyone wants a piece of you. And it's sort of like, well, hang on, what do I want to do, and what is important to me, what are my values, and then that sort of helps you decide what you're going to flick off and other things that you are going to embrace, I reckon. And yeah, so it is sort of new. I think that the reason we're doing this is because we're going to talk about a lot more when we talk about our leadership values and everything when we're face to face. But it might be something that you might want to take away, with you, just to sort of talk about, just to have a think about, what is it that I want to do, or what do I want to develop in my personal brand. If there was something that you'd think, I want to develop more of this, what would it be?
Right.
Well, I'll give you an instant. So for me, it's I'm a little bit like Shannon. I'm really emotional, and it's just staying calm and not making decisions like that, like really making sure I've got all the information first before I make a decision. So I'll hand over to you.
So I find myself, I'm quite empathetic, and I like someone's word of open-minded. I'd like to think that I'm open-minded. And I don't know, kindness. So I find in my role, and also in my work, because I'm in healthcare, so I sort of do gather information. I don't, I'm in pre-hospital healthcare, so I do feel that I am calm, and I do gather all the information. I make the best decision at the time. But I get what you're saying too, is to make sure that you've got all the information and not to make an emotional decision.
I'm just going to leave you two for a second, just while I jump in and give a message to the other guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Summer, are you? What happened there?
Hello. Sorry. I'm hoping that I've done that right. I think
it's three of us, isn't it? Is it?
Three of us, and I'm hoping that everyone else comes back into our group. Yes. Always had this fear that I've lost everyone.
Oh no, we were just in the middle of a really good conversation. Kathy was, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Kat.
Oh, good.
And it's so hard because you sort of don't know what's going on in the other rooms. But I'm on a promise that 8 o'clock is see you later time. So I'm sorry about that. Do you want to tell us about it very quickly, Kat?
Yep. I was just saying how I had started a career in audit, went into heavy manufacturing and ended up in local government and on the Geelong Library Corporation board. So it was a big change from dollars being the focus to delivering to the community as the focus, and took a bit of a mindset change to realise that you had to work with people differently to get the results or the outcomes that you needed in that environment, as opposed to, pushing airplanes or fuel or aluminium out the door. So yeah, it was a big change.
Yeah, wow. Well, that is a good conversation to have. Does anyone else want to share anything, any of their thoughts? Does anyone have an official personal brand that they wake up every morning and review and have on their wall?
Jay did talk about something that she feels like Shannon's named for her now. I thought it was a really good comment you made, Jay.
Oh, hold on. What am I saying?
In terms of that sense of Shannon actually named, I guess, something that you do inherently in the way you work with people, and that probably is your brand. Do you want to explain that a bit more? Sounds a bit cryptic, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I can just say what I was saying to you guys. I was saying, or do you want me to say the bit that I was talking to you about getting people to trust me, or the bit of
yeah.
So I've worked in the outdoor industry, and in order to get people to trust you because they're about to be in a situation where their lives could be on the line, over time I sort of developed a persona so that they could trust me really, really quickly, because they need to. If I'm telling them to come over to me on a bit of white water, they need to do it quickly. They need to trust me, and they need to know that I'm going to be there. And that's, you know, something that I've had to be able to get them to do very, very quickly. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, having a personal brand. But I guess that is exactly what it is. But yeah, I have this whole sort of pattern that you go through to make sure people feel comfortable and confident, and also to make sure that they know that I'm empathetic to anything that they could be going through. You know, I'm asking them to step right outside of their comfort zone. So, you know.
Yours might be calm as well.
Very calm, I think.
Want to hope so. I think.
Yeah, I'd be happy for you to save me, I think, even in knowing you for an hour. Thank you, Jay. Well, thank you, everyone. Now, I am going to just set you a tiny bit of homework before we all come together. Who's able to come along on the 14th of March? Yeah? I'm actually going to ask that you prepare a 1 to 2 minute snapshot of your personal brand. And that's how we're going to start off the session when we're all together. So you can do that with photos. You can do it, just articulate it straight off, which is probably ideal if you are able just to talk about it. But if you're feeling like you need some visuals, we'd be happy for you to bring something significant that means it's representative of your personal brand. But if you try and have a think about what Shannon has spoken about and some of those key messages, just to let you know also, I've recorded this and you'll all get a recording of it. So if you want to go back over what Shannon has discussed, that might assist you as well. But yeah, we'd be really keen for you to come with your personal brand. And the reason that we're doing this is because with all of the talk that we're going to be doing about leadership, it's your leadership. So it's going to be your leadership style. You'll learn a little bit about leadership theory, but you'll relate it back to how you want to approach your leadership. So, and you know, and values as well. And I think, you know, Libby in other sessions has talked about how, you know, when she was mayor at Surf Coast, that there were really, really tough decisions, but the best way for her, I'll just talk on your behalf, Liv, is that she goes to bed at night time and goes, yeah, well, I can sleep tonight because I know that I've made the right decision for me, even though there's probably, as Liv was saying before, it might have been an unpopular choice that, you know, you're never going to be able to please everyone. And, you know, those of us who've been in sporting clubs in a leadership role, we definitely can't please, you know, that under 10 who's going to play for Australia. We're not going to, you can't all play for Australia. And just, so it's just that sort of knowing that the decision that you make is the right decision based on your brand, your values, and your leadership of the group that you're involved with. So there are some heaps of gems in there, Shannon. I've written down so many notes that I'm going to refer back to. everyone, I'll send out to you some resources. You'll probably get hit a bit hard because I get a bit excited with already today I've come across a fantastic list of resources called, it's a take on summer. We're going to have to swear in front of you sometimes, but it's a take on BS, which is short for bull. But it's an amazing, this guy, Peter Horowitz, I don't know if anyone has heard from him, but anyway, you are going to get smashed with his stuff because I came across it today. So on your email and on through in the chats and things, I'll just send you heaps of stuff that you can, it's up to you. I'm not asking you to, it's not a academic degree that you're doing, but if you want to refer to it or if you want to have some light reading in the next couple of weeks before the next session, then I'd really encourage you just to take a bit of a look. Does anyone have any questions of Shannon, Libby, or any of the program or what the expectations are? Also, I'm going to send you a reflection sheet, and if you can just be really honest with where you're at, what you want to get out of the program, and return that to me before the next session, that would be terrific as well. The next session will be held at Armstrong Creek at the Community Hub. I'll send the address of that. We will need to be a little bit COVID cautious, COVID safe. So I'll send out the things that we said that we would do to be COVID safe. And that will be around just, you know, a bit of social distancing and sanitizer and everything else that we need to do. There'll be two presenters, myself and I'll be talking about leadership theory, but we'll also have a presenter talking about emotional intelligence, and Matt Connell, and he'll be also doing lots of activities with you. So it's going to be very interactive. So make sure that you're wearing comfortable clothes and have your head switched on, be able to be vulnerable. And we'll be talking about emotional intelligence in regard to leadership, but also having some role play and talking about communication skills and conflict resolution, etc., etc. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to know? No. The other, just last thing to finish up, is that there is the option, if you want, what we did with the last group is we had a Facebook group, and it was just a network for people. We just found that most people were on Facebook, so it was easier to form a private group, and that if you're finding resources, that you can also share them and share your experiences that you're having along the way as well. So, you know, one of the aims of this project, like I said before, is to connect you all to each other as well. So if we have a show of hands of who's on Facebook. All right, so no one's not on it? No? All right. Well, if you're happy with that, I might just form that group over the next couple of days as well. And if that's all we've got, I think I've got through everything on my list anyway. And if there's nothing else, you are 4 minutes short of 8 o'clock. So you've got 4 minutes one day. It doesn't happen very often, does it, Liv? Or Kath, or
I'm
Jen?
suitably impressed, Fiona.
I know, I'm learning. It's part of my personal brand.
It's one of the reasons I switched from football to netball to football, wasn't it?
Shorter meetings.
I don't know, not with your husband, maybe not.
Yeah, that's right. He's out now. All right. Thank you, everyone. If you've got any questions, anyway, jump on the email and let us know.
Lovely to meet you all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
lovely to meet you.
Thanks, Shannon and Libby
Bye, guys.
as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.